Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ben Stewart Podcast. I have two guests that are, to me, really near and dear to my heart. Now, Tricia Eastman and Dr. Joseph Barsuglia, I just met together for the first time on this road trip that I'm on. So traveling with my entire family through California, all the way up north, and now we're in Tahoe. And what's interesting is just a few days ago, we all got to get together just outside of Malibu at a juice bar. It was an amazing experience. And what I love is this is really what the psychedelic community should be. A community, people who get together, actually see each other face to face, get a sense for one another. And I don't want to go too deep into that. I really want to give a really beautiful bio on each of them so you understand who we're having on the show today. And we're going to get into some really beautiful, heartfelt, and also cutting edge topics. So first, we have Tricia Eastman, who's a writer. She's a speaker, a pioneer in the psychedelic movement. And as a medicine woman, she really offers highly curated retreats in countries where the use is legal. And she works with psilocybin, 5-MeO-DMT, and most, I would say, piquing my interest is iboga. You've probably heard of this. So she offers a unique bridge between the scientific, cultural, and ancestral traditions. Eastman has been initiated into the Bwiti tradition, as well as facilitated the Psychospiritual Iboga program for Crossroads Treatment Center in Mexico. If that wasn't incredible enough, her partner, Dr. Joseph Peter Barsuglia, is a psychologist and researcher who served as a clinical research director for a psychedelic clinic which utilized ibogaine and 5-MeO-DMT as a psychotherapist in MAPS. So we all know MAPS. So a MAPS-sponsored MDMA-assisted psychotherapy trials. He is an initiate for the African tradition called Bwiti, which uses ibogaine as its sacrament, and a former pastor with a degree in spiritual theology. He serves as an advisor to multiple innovative companies and nonprofits in the field of psychedelic medicine. And these bios, they don't even scratch the surface of the real authenticity in this specific field that these icons are. And I say icon in a spiritually revered way. So without further ado, let's invite them into the fold on the Ben Stewart Podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. In my ear, I was hearing and I'm still hearing a little bit of a delay. I'm not sure if you guys are hearing that on your end. It's a little trippy. Maybe it fits with the topic, but it's just happening in my head. So that's another thing in this field where it's all happening in my head and you guys are just holding space for it. I want to say welcome. Thank you both. It's so good to see you again together. I'm just super glad to have you both as a couple, which I know a lot of the work you do is as a couple, and here on the show so we can really just dive deeply into what it is you're offering, what kind of times we're in, and how we can maximize more in a spiritual way than in a financial way, maximize this experience of life. And I know that that's one thing that you guys and gals are bringing to the fore in this field. So first and foremost, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Ben. It's been such an honor, all the magic that we've created together so far on Psychedelica, season 2, and just want to give you a big hug from cyberspace. I love you, and just really grateful for all the work that you're doing, and really grateful to be staring at the redwoods in your window and getting to experience a little bit of your vacation.
Yeah. Gordo is probably going to say, don't do it, but I'm going to try and show the camera towards Tahoe. I don't know if you can see it over there. That window. It's probably all whitewashed out, but trust me, that's where I'm at. And I have my whole family here. We were just enjoying the beautiful and beautifully cold water here. So let's make this experience worth it. This is going to be a shorter podcast than normal, and we will just dive straight in. I guess what I want to really get into before all the just the deeper stuff as far as your work, but your relationship. What brought you together, and how did this turn into a team in this kind of work, medicine work?
Do you want to share?
I'll share my version.
I always share my version.
So Tricia and I met on a dance floor, which is now a grocery store, Air One in Venice. It was sort of a quasi Burning Man party. And we were introduced through a mutual friend of ours named Drew Gerald, who's actually a sex coach. And he saw us both on the dance floor, and he's like, "You two have to meet each other." So we took it as a sign. And
all right.
At the time, Tricia was working on a sort of a shamanic holistic program called Love Juju. And I was kind of going out of an exit from the mainstream psychology medical matrix and was really enlivened by what she was creating in the world. And we both kind of jumped into Crossroads Treatment Center, which was working with ibogaine and 5-MeO at the time. So we had a lot of threads of overlap with our friendships, our community. We were in the kind of Venice, West Los Angeles tribe of people that were in consciousness, psychedelics, and had a lot of fun. And we went to a festival called Lucidity. And that was like the first time that we hung out camping, and there was some psychedelic talks there. And yeah, it just felt so much resonance, alignment. And the thing that smacked me first about Tricia was her radiant heart, like the energy of her heart sucked me in.
Lucidity. I liked lucidity. I'm glad. Yeah. So you were going to say something, Tricia?
Oh, sorry. No, what I was going to say is that I feel like our relationship, and this is a very uncommon thing to happen, was really brought through the medicine. And so it was interesting because during that festival, Joseph was speaking on this panel and had just started working for Crossroads with Dr. Martine Polanco. And when we left the festival, he was like, "I would love to have you come down to the clinic and do a treatment." And so literally that next week, I went and had my first ibogaine treatment at Crossroads. And in the medicine, I said to the medicine, "How can I be of service?" You know, I was so grateful for the healing, and I had struggled most of my life with pretty severe eating disorders, and the medicine really was teaching me how to truly accept and love myself, but in such a way of the universal aspect of self, and how we have this great beauty within all of us, that how could we not completely love and accept ourselves? And so what happened was, after I asked that question, how can I be of service? Within 3 weeks, Martine asked me to facilitate the psychospiritual program at Crossroads. And Joseph had just started working there at the same time. So here we are meeting in separate places, and then all of a sudden working together at the same clinic. And in that same time frame, we were both literally going through, I'm sure you're familiar with the term Kundalini awakening. I had, left my past life. I literally kind of gave up my personal belongings and went on this soul quest for several years, where I was really trying to ground into my most authentic version of myself and shedding a lot of layers. And part of that was like really kind of destabilizing for myself. And at that time, Joseph was also really in the worst depths of his Lyme disease, where he was really debilitated. He had been on disability because of his sickness. And when we came together, we found strength in each other. And we both were really dedicated to our paths and our own unique paths as our, on our path of spiritual discovery and awakening, but we were also like really supporting each other at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so I started Psychedelic Journeys, and I started doing retreats. I started facilitating about 6 years ago, and we've been together for 6 years. And I started doing the retreats because I wanted to make the medicine available for Joseph, because I really felt that the iboga would cure his Lyme disease. And after my 5th retreat is when he started working again at MAPS.
Wow. Thank you for that. And if you guys heard any tinkering on the audio, I finally figured it out. In my headphones, I had YouTube streaming in the background, and I was like, this is a big delay. So I kept up, and I thank you for that. The part that I didn't miss before when you told me, but now it's striking me in a different way, is the Lyme's disease component of that. And the interesting thing about that I want to ask about is, what other things did you attempt to do for Lyme's disease that were outside of this specific protocol? Because I've heard of some other people utilizing things like psilocybin, as well as different like mushrooms, lion mane, reishi, things along those lines. I'm just really curious, what else? Beyond psychedelics, I know that you have vast knowledge of these types of things. How did you go ahead and work on that?
Yeah, it was really, it's been essential to my hero's journey or whatever, of just trying to heal myself and find what are the natural therapies that can help. But it's been a 20-year journey trying to heal Lyme disease. And in that process, I started off on sort of the mainstream Western antibiotic path. And there's a lot of conflict in the Lyme disease community and the scientific community about, if you have Lyme disease and you get treated with a course of antibiotics, do you then still have some kind of chronic autoimmune response, or do you still have active infection? And in my experience and many others, it's like the antibiotics are not enough and not really effective, and then they create resistance in the bugs. So for me, I literally tried everything in the kitchen sink. Chinese medicine, all functional medicine, which really functional medicine was the saving grace for me of doing really holistic assessments and blood testing and looking at, with Lyme disease, one of the biggest issues is the testing, because Lymes carry, the ticks carry Lyme, but then also multiple other tick-borne infections. So when people are getting bit by a tick, they're oftentimes getting 5 or 6 different types of infections and even viruses. So just in the last 5 years now, there's more accurate testing companies. So part of the puzzle in the game was figuring out what was going on. And in my case, I had some other bugs called Babesia and Bartonella, which many people do get in addition to Lyme disease. So I found there's a couple herbal protocols that were pretty effective. The Cowden protocol, which uses some different Peruvian herbs that are effective antibiotics and don't create bacterial resistance. Some different Chinese herbs. But Tricia and I are both biohackers, and it's been actually fun. It's because in healing ourselves, we find out what can be a gift to others. And I found one of my highest healing therapies, I would say, is ozone therapy, which is reportedly a Tesla technology that can be used in many different ways. And we bought our own machine, and I've had amazing results with it. If people don't know, ozone is, the ozone layer of the earth. Oxygen is the O2 molecule, ozone is the O3 molecule. And it's sort of this master medicine in being able to stimulate mitochondrial function, to improve energy. And it's also a really powerful antiviral and antibacterial type of substance. So you can make, I feel like it's essential for anyone's like apocalypse survival kit to have an ozone machine, because you can make ozonated water and drink it. So the water is medicinal. We think we may have got COVID, but we're not sure. Back in Egypt about 1.5 years ago, and I was using it in my sinuses. We also got mold poisoning at the same time. So we were using it to clear out the mold. You can do all kinds of stuff. Ozonated oil. Tricia had amazing healings with using it topically, ozonated hemp oil. So I do all kinds of ozone therapy on myself. And then also hyperthermia. So just getting up to like 150 to 180 degrees Fahrenheit and just sweating, which basically kills anything that's not supposed to be in your body. And yeah, a lot of movement practices.
Peptides.
Peptides are pretty amazing. There's this whole group of natural kind of amino acids that bodybuilders and biohackers are using that are completely natural, available, and are targeted to stimulate all different things in the body. So I found a lot of healing with those as well. And
nice.
Yeah, combo's been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, combo, man. So there's for anybody listening, if any of that what he said like isn't familiar to you, look into it, because these are all like incredible approaches to health. And I think this would be a good segue. So when you were going through this, did you have any, I feel like every illness, every sickness, everything that we encounter that is a challenge in our lives has some kind of emotional charge that comes with it. Has the Lymes over the past 2 decades turned into something that you needed to work on in different ways, like such as with the plant medicines, to actually work on whether it be something that came specifically from the Lymes or from how the Lymes may have limited your health in the past and limited you stepping into fields or a part of your potential that you weren't able to because you were always contending with that. Does that ever come up in some of the plant medicine work that you do?
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah, I see it now as like the biggest gift from God, really, in my life, because it drove me into myself, into my own healing. And when I met Tricia, I had trained as a psychotherapist. I had received myself like 15 years of therapy, and been on this healing path. But the Lyme drove me into grief. And actually, I have a kind of a real quick, beautiful story I'll share with you. But when I was 18, I was suicidally depressed, and I didn't know what it was at the time, but it was actually the Lyme that had kind of taken over my nervous system. And I said a prayer to the universe. I said, I don't want to be here anymore. This is too miserable. I need a sign from God. I need some vision of why I'm supposed to be here. And I put my head down and I prayed, and I saw a vision of a plant, like a tree. And what it appeared to be was what I now know is like the tree of life. And it said, this is going to be revealed to you in the future, what this is. And it was really when I met Tricia at the time that I was working with cannabis oil, and that was healing me. I was having incredible physical healings. And then also I was going deep with Rick Simpson oil, which is a pretty strong cannabis oil extract, and was going into higher states of consciousness and spiritual experiences. And it was through Tricia and the research with ibogaine that led me to take iboga the first time. And when I took iboga the first time, it was like a cosmic light bath in my nervous system of healing the debris from the Lyme disease, of giving me sensation back. I had lost like sensation in my fingers. I was having kind of like tremors, which one doctor thought I might have early Parkinson's or something. And the iboga was, which is actually shown to help Parkinson's, interestingly. Doing iboga is what gave me my life back and also showed me my purpose. So it's really aligned for myself, like dharmically, what I'm here to do and to serve, and with Tricia, our work together. So if it wasn't for Lyme disease, I wouldn't have found my path. I feel like.
That's wild. That's wild. You mentioned it as part of your hero's journey, maybe the biggest part of it, and speaking about it as a teacher rather than an annoyance or the biggest enemy in your life. I really appreciate, and I can sense how you've had to work through a lot of that to see it as not just a curse, but also having that gift encrypted there in it. One thing that made me think of when you said you and Tricia then came together, started doing the work, was some of the imagery that was used in Psychedelica. So the one episode on, I'm blanking on the name, sorry about this, but it's the one about frequencies, psychedelics and frequencies and sound. And in that, there's this imagery, this footage of a sound healing session. And I really appreciated some of those visuals. I even took a screenshot and I sent it out because I didn't edit any of this, so I didn't see it until it was actually airing. So I'm really glad that they must have contacted you and got some of that footage. Is that right?
Yeah, it was a beautiful synchronicity because as Joseph shared, he used to be a pastor, but he was a worship pastor, and he's an incredible musician just because he puts his heart and soul, and it's really like in, like reverence of the sacred that he channels his music. And I really myself I've never been a professional musician, but I sing, and he's really inspired me to get into learning about sound and sound healing. And we've just been working together over the last 6 years, and it just seemed like a really perfect invitation when we were asked by Gaia. We happened to have some friends who bought some new equipment, and we're like, we'd love to shoot you. So it was like in the divine flow, and we love incorporating that into our work because I think it's so powerful how sound frequencies can really help to work with the medicine, but also, when we get to work together in that collaboration, it's such a gift to feel how spirit can, allow us to move together so beautifully.
Yeah, man, music. What you were just saying makes me think of, and I want to get into the music, especially connected with traditions like Bwiti around the use of iboga. I'm very familiar with ikaros. I'm very familiar with the fast water drumming in a peyote ceremony, and I've always found that to be something so riveting for me, is the musical experience and the sound of a voice or an instrument played or expressed through well. And Joseph and I have talked about music. We're both musicians, really very much so love it. And I was thinking of the Chinese symbol. Do you guys know this? The Chinese symbol for music, and what it's either identical or nearly identical to is health or healing.
Mm.
So music and healing. And also they have, going back to the way that, Joseph, you were looking at Lyme's disease, their symbol for crisis is either exactly, one of them is exact, but either exact or nearly identical to the symbol for opportunity. So crisis and opportunity. So it kind of feels like, a big door is shutting, but another big one is opening, but you have to have the eyes to see what door that might be. So let's dive into it. The music, the thing that doesn't get, it's not the lead singer of the band when it comes to these ceremonies. Everyone's always thinking the plant, the experience, the feelings and the sensations and things along like my experience. Whereas everyone after these ceremonies always tells me how much the music was so pivotal in not just the experience, like, oh, it made it cool or it made it a nice atmosphere. It was pivotal to the revelations, the realizations, and the healing. And it actually helped with a part of the narrative that was going on in their head about what the healing means. I would love to hear a little bit about the polyrhythmic music, why it's polyrhythmic, why it is the way that it is, in your view, having worked with the Bwiti in Gabon or around Gabon, and why the music is so pivotal in these experiences.
Yeah, the music is really everything. And in a way, it's sort of the tracks or the railroad for the container as well as the experience. And it's designed to be sort of a teleportation into the spirit world. But also in Bwiti, it's about being present with the music and the dance. And we met early on. We went to this Ibogaine conference in Mexico, the Global Ibogaine Therapy Alliance conference. And there was a speaker, what was his name? Schuster and Struble.
Schuster.
Yeah, he was like I think an ethnopharmacologist. I'm forgetting his professional affiliations, but he did a whole sort of rundown of how the polyrhythms work in the brain and also for the heart. And the polyrhythms are kind of unique to African types of music, and very prominent in Bwiti, and they're these sort of off rhythm, kind of syncopated beats. Like one beat will be going just kind of standard, and then you have duck 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 duck, these overlaying like rhythms like this. And like the you have the magungo, which is a really primitive sort of mouth harp with a stick that's bent with a bow that's hit with another stick, and the mouth is used to create these different sort of undulating sounds with the percussion. You have rattles, you have harps that are used more in the Dasumba traditions, and one of the primary traditions that we've been initiated in is Dasumba, and it has this more kind of celestial tapestry to the music, but the music is really to guide you on a soul journey. And this is a harp that was given to
beautiful
us in Gabon.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the harp is really the extension of you. If you have a harp made, it's like an extension of your soul, and no one's supposed to really touch it or play with it unless there's permission. And when Tricia was given this harp,
this one's actually your harp.
Oh, yeah, the carriage style is missing.
Yeah.
Your soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Tricia was given the harp, our tradition in Dasumba, they have, it's sort of syncretic with Christianity, and they give this Saint Mary blessing to Tricia when she got her harp. But in Bwiti, the music is so critical, so essential. There's music for journeying. There's music for any kind of purpose or function of celebration, of grief, of transition, of opening, of closing, of dance. And in the Dasumba traditions, you do get more harp. In the more kind of jungle Bwiti Misoko, you have a lot more shakers and drumming and
Mugungo.
Yeah, more mouth harp than Mugungo.
Yeah.
So it's really essential, and there's some sense that like it's doing something with the heart too, is what that speaker I mentioned earlier, Uwe Struster, had identified, is that ibogaine can create arrhythmias in the heart, but these kind of off-time syncopated beats help keep your heart stimulated and keep you engaged, versus kind of slipping into a coma or something with some predictable rhythms. And so the music is pretty cacophonous in a sense of like there's bells going off and people screaming, and there's a lot of randomness to it.
Cowbells, whistles.
Yeah, it's really like high energy. So to the Western person, a lot of times in ceremonies, we will use some Bwiti music, and people don't have a very long tolerance for it because it can be very abrasive, which is also part of the medicine of Iboga, is it's kind of meant to cleanse you, wear you down, to soften the mind, and the music and the medicine both do that.
Yeah. And I want to add to that a couple of things. One is that the polyrhythms actually are designed to balance the left and right hemisphere of the brain. So when one polyrhythm is really working on the left hemisphere of the brain, and another is more abnormal to kind of work with the right hemisphere, the creative side of the brain. And so what happens is when you've been listening to this music for hours and hours, it's actually balancing you. And in the symbology of Bwiti, the colors red and white are representing the masculine and the feminine. So really it's about balancing the aspects, or the union of these two aspects of masculine and feminine.
You know, what comes to mind is the original concept of binaural beats would be two different rhythms at the same time, and the hemisphere is usually worn with headphones. So you're isolating the left and right ear, and it causes the brain to have to find the middle ground, to find the unspoken rhythm between the rhythms. And I really like that about that. There is something about you were mentioning the heart arrhythmias, I think you were saying, and the music, the polyrhythmic music, can help energize the nervous system and keep the heart alert in a way. I'm curious, I'm sure you know about HeartMath Institute, and I'm curious if HeartMath has done any looking at the heart during an experience of Iboga. Do you know about anything like this?
At the clinic that we worked with, Crossroads, we used the HeartMath program to help people when they were having struggle in the journey to use the breathwork techniques and kind of the meditation techniques, and along with the software, to be able to find a sense of centeredness, because it really is important with an intense medicine like Iboga. And I think in any medicine journey, like our connection to our heart or our ability to be able to find a center when we're going through a really intense part of the journey is really valuable.
Yeah, I would love to, in the interest of time, and like I could go into so many different directions, but what I would really like the audience to understand is what sets this medicine apart from the others. I know we mentioned 3 at the beginning, but there's a very special reason why I want to know a little bit more about Iboga and the ceremony around it. So I'd really just like to know what sets this apart from the rest of the classical psychedelics, especially the ones like the ayahuasca, like the mushrooms that have their Maria Sabina, or the Oaxaca, Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what is it that sets this plant apart? And for you in your heart, I know this has a very special space in your heart. What sets it apart? What makes this a unique experience? And ayahuasca can be very emotional. Psilocybin can have that, but a lot of the time, sometimes it's more visual for people. But I know with Iboga, people have very specific experiences, and everyone I've ever met who's done Iboga has just, it's fewer words. They're like, it's an experience, like that's the most that usually comes out of them. Like it's incredible. They might say a little bit about it, but it's almost this more humbling, like, wow. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing, just from a pharmacology perspective, this plant has over 30 known alkaloids. It is one of the most sophisticated psychoactive plants of the plant kingdom. And based on the anthropological evidence of Bwiti and what kind of instruments are used and the tradition, it would appear to be one of the oldest traditions working with a psychoactive substance. Obviously that could be disputed, but it, just is like all of the traditional things that are used are very simplistic. No guitars, very, a lot more basic. And the other thing I would say is that it actually is in a specific class. It's called an onirphrenic, which means dream maker. So what it's actually doing is it's taking you into a dreamlike state. Oniros means dream state in Greek. And so what it's doing is it's bringing you into this dreamlike state. And interestingly, as it's doing that, these different alkaloids are working on every neurotransmitter system nearly in the body, minus just a few. And as it's working on that, it incapacitates you. You're almost in a frozen state where if you try to get up, you feel dizzy and nauseous. If you try to go outside of yourself, like focus on something other than your work inside during the journey, you might hear buzzing in your ears, or, you might feel dizzy, or, the medicine will create an environment where it kind of forces you to go in and look at yourself. So really, this medicine is about facing yourself, truly facing yourself. And that can be really hard for people, and it can be an incredibly humbling experience, because really Bwiti is about truth. And so when we are faced with the truth versus, the illusions, the projections, the lies that we tell ourselves, sometimes that can kind of leave us a little empty and speechless, all the things that we add on top of our lives, or all the stories that we carry about what life is. All of a sudden, you spend, a very long period of time working with Ibogas. Typically, if you're doing 2 nights of medicine, you're really in the medicine, I would say, around 4 days. It's, 48 hours per per night of medicine. So it's kind of a marathon in comparison to ayahuasca or peyote or any of the other medicines. So really, in that period, you're doing a lot of inner work, a lot of deep inner work. Some people see scenes from their childhood come up where it's almost like a movie playing where they're taken to different points in their life and shown really what was happening at that time so that they can kind of heal and repair and release, which, isn't necessarily unique from other psychoactive substances. But I would say that the level at which the work goes is profound. The level of cleaning. Now, keep in mind too that Iboga doesn't always have very consistent visual aspects. I would say like ayahuasca for me personally has been a lot more of a light show, in terms of the visual aspects of it. But in terms of the intelligence that you connect with through Iboga, it's this deep, wise, masculine. I mean, some people would call it feminine, but I mean, I think of plant spirits as non-dualistic. But in a lot of traditions, they call it the grandfather, so the great-great-grandfather. So it's really this deep, wise spirit, and the reason they call it that is because it's very direct. It's not taking you in this kind of more roundabout way, which, the serpent or ayahuasca, might do. But it's really directly showing you, what's happening in a very direct, clear, simple way.
Beautiful. So you, one thing I want to bring up is in the Azores, you are putting a lot of work in. We've been talking throughout some of the process, at least, and I know it's been going for a while, but building a center called HU, H-U, in the Azores. I want to ask a couple questions on this. Why the Azores? B, how awesome is the Azores, and should I travel there? C, where are you guys at with this project? And when you roll it, like what's special about it? When you roll it out, what will people be able to do at this center? Like, what are some of the things they'd be able to engage with?
I want to first start off. I mean, the center was a very strange thing because it didn't really come from me in the sense of like, oh, I'm going to build a center in the Azores. To be quite honest, there's a lot of other places I would think of to live. I didn't really know a lot about the Azores, but it came very clearly through, my meditations. I was pre-COVID, really planning out my year for 2020. And all of a sudden, like I kept getting all these blocks with booking my retreats. So I have this retreat that I do in Costa Rica at this beautiful retreat center. And that was supposed to be in March of 2020. And they send me my deposit back and they're like, we're not going to be doing any medicine retreats on our property this year with specifically Iboga because it's, it's a bigger medicine and, I can understand, it's more of a liability. And then right after that, I was working on my June retreat for Ibiza, and same thing. It just felt, it wasn't quite like as direct of a block, but it was just like the energy just wasn't wanting to ground with it. And I was like, okay, so what wants to happen? And so I started asking, and then that's when the Azores started coming in, and it was coming in very strong, very clear. And what I was told was that it's the last remnant of the mountains of Atlantis. And that it's the place where the original wounding happened related to the cycle that we're in, this Kali Yuga cycle, which is a 26,000-year cycle where we went into the dark age because we, really got out of alignment with power, and that this was an important node for there to be a center for wisdom. And the message that I got, it was very funny, was that the name for the center is HU. And so I was like, okay. And we looked it up, and it was quite interesting that the name actually is a Kemetic name, and it means the name of which, it's the vibration of which wisdom comes to the initiate. So it's actually a frequency.
Wow. It makes me think of several different things. There are sounds in Taoism if you're working on certain organs, like for the heart, it's like with the tongue open, and that connects with the heart. For the kidneys, it's bending over, like laying in your own lap and looking up and going, choo. And so like that sound to me also has that hue sound in it. There's something. It's also my wife's favorite chocolate. I don't know if you know. There's a chocolate brand named Hue. It's amazing. Yeah. So without tangenting on anything, in the interest of time, I know you guys. We have about 15 minutes left, and so when it comes to the Azores, when do you think it will be? The project itself will be complete. Given the fact that we're living in a world where we don't know when travel is going to be back open. But besides that, in a perfect world, when will the project be complete?
Yeah, I mean, the project really came to me. I have to share a little bit about the process so that you can understand kind of the whole thing. I'll say everything is in its own divine schedule, and we anticipate like late summer of 2022 for the open date. Our intention is to break ground summer of 2021. And but really, I was part of this group called Holistic Visions with the Lucille Foundation, and this was in 2018. I was with the Kogi, and they gave me a really important, powerful transmission. And so the thing that has really been, I think, the biggest thing is we're not just building like a center, like okay, let's put up some beams and let's build some lodging, but there's a very specific type of bioarchitecture that we've designed for the center. And so a lot of the time that we've taken into creating it is because there's been additional need for engineering, because it's more unusual than what the architects and designers and our general contractor in the Azores are used to building.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. So having seen the architecture that you're working with, it looks beautiful. There's so much more. There's so much more detail we could go into about the thoughtfulness of how you're actually building that resort. I would love to maybe next time, maybe go even deeper into that specifically. What I love about that is the Kogi Mamus have been coming up a lot for me lately. Also the Lucille Foundation and the film The 12.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I found out that Charles Eisenstein, not only knew of you two, but said, if you ever do the medicine, go to them. And that meant something big for my friend and I. But on top of that, it really did. And so on top of that, what's interesting is the mention of the Kogis. And so that film, The 12, I would imagine your meeting with them was right beforehand. Is that right? Right before they were filming for that?
It's actually quite interesting because I was synchronistically in New York right when they brought The 12. That was in 2017, and that's when they made the movie. They released the movie in 2018, and what happened was so really the Lucille Foundation, and what really attracted me to them is we're all initiates of the same lineage of Bwiti, which is Atum Rabenga, who is one of the 12.
He's in the film, yeah.
He's in the film, and I highly
that's
recommend everyone downloading it online on I think it's at the Lucille Foundation website, or they might actually have Google the
donation-based.
It's donation-based
as well, yeah.
And really, they love donations, and they also are just really looking for and it's LEC. Is it CI?
It's two words. That's a different foundation.
Yeah,
that's a different.
That looks like a great place too, though.
It's like what first word is LE and
LE. Yeah, LE. Second word C.
Yeah, Laciel. It means the light.
CEI.
Oh, okay.
And we're all initiates of Atum. And they received a really strong message intuitively, just like we got the message for the Azores, to make this film. And then in completion of the film, a message came through the Council of the 12 that this holistic visions needed to form, which was a council of 144 people, including the elders. And through divination, they went through 10,000 names, and they divined 144 people, like with no attachment to who or what they were, and placed them into these groups of 12 that were really topics that were selected by the Council of 12 to really look at the future of humanity. And so I was divined to be in the New Energies group, and Joseph was in the health group.
That's amazing.
I see them as sort of an incubation for like new earth solutions, and they've brought together a convergence of like, okay, what do we need to build the new earth in medicine and water and energy and technology? And they're doing that under the spiritual leadership of some of the most respected ancestral guides and teachers and elders on the planet. And yeah, one of our shared Bwiti teachers, Atume Rubenga, is in the film, and it's really beautiful, his teachings in the film. So yeah, they're like a sister group for us, and peers, and we went to Egypt with them, and we have kind of resonant philosophies with what we want to do in Azores as well, with bringing in ancestral wisdom and allowing that to be a mouthpiece, because this is the insights that we need right now, what we're going through on the planet.
Mm-hmm. To give a place where these teachings can happen. And it was really synchronistic when we were in the Azores the last time we went. We traveled there twice during COVID, doing our work, and even the land coming through, it was crazy how all the pieces came through, like, so with such deep confirmation. But we were in this area of the island, and we were like praying for confirmation, and literally we look up and there's this mural, and the mural is like all of what was it, like Einstein, Bob Marley, Tesla, all on this tree. And we were like, that's what it is. We're supposed to bring the wisdom here. This is supposed to be an institute, a platform to bring people like Charles Eisenstein, or the elders, who are in the Council of the 12, or the 13 grandmothers, and to bring them and create a container where important work can be done.
And yeah, I would add too, it's like a known energy vortex on the Earth where Azores is, and there's these 9 islands, and people say there might have been a pyramid discovered underwater. It's kind of contested, but it feels like a place where mystery schools would happen. It's got this kind of magical, it feels like a fairyland, like Fern Gully, very kind of mythical kind of energy to the land and the island. So it's really special and unique, and lots of hot springs, which
beautiful hot springs.
So the water for us too is I got a really strong transmission actually around my Lyme disease from some of my elders, and they were saying, like, Joseph, you have to get in water, you have to pray with water, you have to learn to bless water, to how to pray with water as you take it in your body. And Azores is all about, it's super watery. It's also volcanic, but it's got amazing waterfalls and hot springs, and we have on the land both river and geothermal springs. So we're looking forward to also advancing the science around healing with water as well, from both the scientific and a spiritual lens.
I want to add that I'm a big fan of Bruce Dammer, who's a biologist who has written quite a few research papers on how he believes, his hypothesis is that life began in a hot spring, like all life on the entire planet.
I would believe it. I mean, I would have no reason to disbelieve it. There's just such incredible things about this entire planet, but I actually did an episode on biogeometry with highlighting Ibrahim Karim and his daughter Daraya. And I really got the same sense for the kind of geometry and architecture you're working with there. I really get the sense that this work is bigger than any one tool or intervention, spiritually, psychophysically, all those types of things. it is the bigger work, and I really like that. I really enjoyed the film The 12. I like what I'm hearing with the Lucille Foundation. I spoke with this gentleman, and he told me that they even somehow impregnated the film with healing harmonic frequencies given forth by the 12. And really, I don't have time to even get into where this brings me to something that I've been shown that I will be doing, but it has to do with music and bringing together the voices of elders. Think We Are the World, but done with real elders, using their voices, flying together, harmonizing with one another, literally bringing harmony in the most literal sense, but also these languages that are being lost. And what I love about what I'm hearing from you is I feel like there's so many good ideas. There simply needs to be more implementation, and that really takes the people who understand what kind of space needs to be created and held. It's a very beautiful art form that you both are working with, and I'm really excited to go deeper in another episode. I know we're coming up on 2:00 Pacific time here. I want to be respectful of your time. So the one thing I wanted to mention was Tricia, your book. Let me get this right: Traversing the Innerverse.
Yes.
Okay, tell us about that and when we can expect that, and anything else you want the audience to know as far as how they can reach you, connect with you if they want to go deeper in what you're talking about.
Yeah, the book Traversing the Innerverse, Plant Medicine, Ancestral Wisdom, and the Path to Transcendent Consciousness is really something that wanted to come through in the 6 years that I've worked with people. I've worked with over 1,500 people, including Navy SEALs and celebrities and politicians. And I've seen just some things that really limit us in our path of really growth. And I really feel, psychedelics are such a huge buzzword. And actually, there are so many important frameworks that are missing from the psychedelic space that really limit how far you can go with the work. One of the good examples that actually, when I was watching, which episode is it where you quote Stanislav Grof and you say that he believes that archetypal astrology merged with psychedelics is one of the most exciting directions that the movement could make, if you remember that?
I don't remember which episode, to be perfectly honest. Like the work happened so long ago, and I'm almost embarrassed to say I haven't seen all the episodes. I remember doing the voiceover, doing the scripts and everything. So I'm not sure exactly which one Stan Grof made that mention to. But I also agree. What that sounds like to me is you're utilizing the agent itself that you consume, the sacrament, as something that helps amplify an intention, which could be working with another science or a higher science, a deeper understanding of ourselves, which I think that's kind of the place that we're all moving to. Is the more we understand that, man, not only were psychedelics used thousands and thousands of years ago in many different settings, but almost always having to do with having higher visions and healing and grounding here in the physical, as well as darkness. Darkness goes way, way back. Oh, what do you know? Music and chanting and drumming and things like that. And these are all things that are accompaniments to psychedelics. So I really appreciate that your book focuses on that. I want to let you finish what you were saying there about when the book's going to come out and how people can connect with you.
Yeah, I mean, really, thank you for sharing that. I feel that there's too much focus on the psychedelic itself and not enough on the framework. And when we look at the initiatory traditions, whether it's the Kemetic rites, whether it's initiation into Bwiti, there is quite a significant amount of rites and rituals that are used for purification and preparation, and then rites and rituals for integration, outing ceremonies, things like that. And I feel like our framework of the reductionist Western view, which has been primarily adopted into the psychedelic space, really is cutting a lot of those pieces out, which actually shortchanges people. And so it's really understanding the whole landscape and how it fits together so that you can traverse your Innerverse. And, for instance, I talk about chakras, and, some people might think that that's something that's woo-woo, or they might not believe in things like that. But really, in terms of like when you're on 5-MeO-DMT, there's a very visible, like, going through the different dimensions, almost like, floors in an elevator, which happens very quickly, that would, lead me to believe, just from seeing it so many times over, that there are chakras, and there's many other, evidence that I've experienced. But I think it's just really important that we really start to look at, just because something is not concrete, just because it doesn't always give a predictable result, doesn't mean that it gets thrown out. We need to start integrating these models, these more quantum models of understanding our own inner nature.
Yeah, that's cutting off what they call cutting the tallest poppy, trying to make everything fit in something that we can understand as a collective. And so we self-police and say, like, where's your scientific peer-reviewed evidence for that? In a lot of ways, we don't realize that that is something that you were even saying. It limits where we will even attempt to go. If we didn't know that there were different chambers of our own intelligence that we could go to, then maybe on psychedelics we would have only found like the sense gratification that it could enhance, which it can. So I really appreciate that. It's something that is not only needed more, but I think is being accepted more. So thank you for going there with your book, going there with both of your work. And just before we go, we're at 2:02. I want to make sure that you can tell people where they can find you. Quickly to the audience, we haven't even scratched the surface of what I absolutely adore about these two. We really must go deeper. There's so much that I wanted to say. Like, you blew my mind, Tricia, when I was interviewing you for Psychedelica. It was not to play favorites or anything, but it was my favorite moment interviewing you was really just acknowledging there's this vast wealth of knowledge behind just a very warm demeanor. And a lot of the times it wasn't this, it needs to be super heavy. We need to go super deep. I need to unroll my Rolodex of all these, big words. It was, I could tell you two are really doing the work, and I have to commend you for that. So with that being said, with that as, for a from the heart promotion of you two, how can people find you?
So, I have a nonprofit, which I do a lot of events around kind of conversations to really expand where we can grow, related to the bridging of ancestral wisdom and modern society and working with elders. And that's ancestralheart.com. If you want to learn more about that. I didn't really get a ton of time to talk about that. And then my Instagram is our shared for psychedelic journeys is at Psychedelic Journeys, and I post pretty much everything on there that I'm up to, and then am I missing anything else? I think that's it, really.
Yeah, and then for me, I have a personal website, which is just myname.com. And people can contact me there. There's should be a contact tab.
JosephBarsuglia.com or Dr. Joseph?
JosephBarsuglia.com, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. We are at the end of the hour. I just want to say this was such a deep dive. It really just left me wanting more. I'm really excited for that. But till next time. I mean, One thing I just want to say before we wrap up is I really do feel with you too, Gordo, I don't say it enough. I know, you didn't get a chance to really chime in here much. Thank you for holding the space. And I really feel like tribe is gathering. I really do acknowledge that there's something that is wanting to come together in a form of community. And I have to give thanks to the time we're in. I really do, because the times that we're in is what seems to be maybe not orchestrating it, but catalyzing the intent behind all of us to, like, let's find the others. Let's really start doing the real good work. Put our money and our feet where our mouth is. And I'm really excited about that. So thank you both for what you all are doing. I can't wait to get down and dirty with some more what you guys are up to. But until then, I guess we'll just sign off, say goodbye to the audience, and catch you all next time on the Ben Stewart Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Lots of love.
Thank you, guys.